you can't actually see COVID spreading, but if you look around you, the long lines at testing sites will tell you everything you need to know. New York is about to get hit and could be the test case for the rest of the country again. But this time we have vaccines and we have boosters, and New York is one of the most highly vaccinated places in the entire country.
New York is about to get hit, and New York is one of the most highly vaccinated places in the entire country.
All right, we're seeing a spike in cases. There are a lot of people who are certainly very nervous. Restaurants have closed. Broadway shows have closed. Some businesses are saying you got to go home and work remotely. Is that what you're encouraging as well, even though this variant, as of now, from all we know, is not as dangerous, not as severe as the other variants?
That's an excellent point. First of all, there's the dominant variant right now is still Delta, which has been dangerous for people who are not vaccinated and people who are not boosted. So that's a whole category of individuals who are susceptible to being hospitalized and even worse because of Delta. We also recognize, based on information from South Africa to other countries, this spreads quickly, but it's not as dangerous.
Right now, you're not considering any new restrictions, not closing down indoor dining, not requiring masks at gyms, et cetera. Or are you? Tell me if you are. And maybe is it depending on how severe this ends up being?
Everything always depends on how severe it ends up being. But where we are right now, literally a week ago,
I instituted a mask or vaccine requirement for all businesses, for businesses that have restaurants, the gyms, the theaters. If you have a vaccination policy, you don't have to have your patrons or anyone wear a mask inside. If you do not want to institute that, we encourage people to have that. But if you don't have that, particularly outside of New York City, then just require everyone to wear a mask.
What are you doing about getting tests in the hands of people at their own homes?
We have been building up our testing inventory. We just received 1 million test kits. We have another 1 million coming next week and 1 million after that. So we knew how important this was. That's why literally before this actually became the spread that it is right now, I ordered those tests to make sure we had them available. We're going to continue to amass more testing kits and make them available as soon as we're able to, especially in schools. I don't want a repeat of what our children went through over the last year and a half. This hybrid situation or having to go completely remote, it did not work for our kids. So many of them are so far behind, as well as the psychological impact. So we're doing everything we can to build what may be for a little while a new normal.
Any consideration to mandating vaccines for the children who are eligible right now? There already are a number of other mandates for vaccines. Is this one going to be added to that list?
Unfortunately, this has to go through our legislature first. They do meet in January, so a requirement for a vaccine would be in place for next school year. It's absolutely something we're looking at very seriously.
Any way that could get expedited, given the urgency of the situation?
The extraordinary powers, the emergency powers that were in place in the early months of this pandemic that my predecessor had, they're not available to me right now.
Revoked.
They've not been. They were taken back by the legislature. So I don't have the same authority, but I'm not using that as an excuse. I believe this is important, and we'll get that done.
The number of people in the city and the state who have not been vaccinated, I know they're hard to reach at this point. It's been a year of vaccinations. What are you doing right now? There are places that mandate vaccines and places of business, et cetera, but what are you doing beyond that to convince the people who seem like they're unconvincible?
And we've had all kinds of promotions, tickets for the Rockettes and ski passes, even a 4-year college degree paid for, that I had the chance to call a number of 8 and 10-year-olds who won this competition.
But I
do believe that there is just this resistance among the final 10% of our population. Very sadly, they're the ones who are seeing their family members and themselves ending up in hospitals. And people who got vaccinated in the early months, our senior citizens and people in nursing homes, their protection is wearing off. That's why we pushed a heavy effort to have booster shots in nursing homes, and that's been successful as well. I have our Commissioner of Health doing robocalls today to remind people how important this is, to say the surge is here. It's going to get worse. We know it's going to get worse, especially after Christmas Day.
Let me ask you this. Are you going to change the requirement for what fully vaccinated means? You can get Omicron just as easily as if you were unvaccinated 5 months after your second vaccination.
We're working on that, and there's the only reason we have to wait is that it's going to be a little bit tricky to work out the rules.
I put in a vaccination mandate for all healthcare workers. It was very controversial, but we did it.
And we ended up going from about 60 or 55% compliance to 100%. We also had people who left the workplace.
We've got these vaccine passports, the Excelsior Pass, everybody has it on their phone. I mean, isn't that able to distinguish between those who are eligible and have gotten the booster and those who are not eligible? Technology is an amazing thing. It can do wonders nowadays.
The answer is we're working on this. I just can't roll it out today until I address that one challenge that's been brought to our attention. I believe that should happen. We'll figure it out, and we'll make it happen in New York.
Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.